All right. Well, hello, Stephanie.
Hi,
How are
Lauren.
you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So first, can you just start by telling me what you do?
Okay. Yes, gladly. So I am the dual director of sales for this hotel, the Homewood Suites, and for the Hampton by Hilton across the street. So my job, I am ultimately responsible for the overall revenues for both hotels. So the sales efforts. So my job entails going out and speaking with local companies, national companies that are right here in the backyard, different groups, different wedding venues, and partnering with them, and event space. So we sell basically our rooms to all of these different markets. And that's really my job. So my primary function is to maximize our revenues for both hotels.
Oh, nice. Do you find it hard to find clients, or do they usually kind of come to you?
Well, that's the great thing about working with a brand like Hilton. So Hilton does a lot of our advertising for us already and a lot of our marketing, and they are so widely recognized or globally recognized. So that helps getting in the door. As specific brands, that might be a little bit more challenging because some brands are more recognized than others, such as Hampton has more name recognition than Homewood Suites does. But once we get the clients to come out and see both properties and they can experience them, then we know where their needs fit. So sometimes it can be a challenge and sometimes not.
Yeah. And how do you sell the rooms?
So how do I sell the rooms? Okay, so for the companies, for corporate companies, national or local, what they're looking for is they're looking to have a special negotiated rate at the hotel. So anytime they come, they're going to get that. They're going to get that rate instead of, when you go online or you call hotels are going to tell you, if you give them dates, they're going to tell you that this is what the rate is. What the corporations do and the companies do is they negotiate something that's better than what we have available to the general public. So what we do is for the national accounts, we go through a process called the request for proposal process, which happens in the fall prior to the year ending. And all of the national accounts work with national Hilton sales managers globally to pick and choose where their business is going. And they look at all the hotels that are in that particular area where they're going to have travel to, and then they pick, okay, we want this hotel to bid on the business and that hotel, and they give them a list. So when we get those bids for the national companies, we go in and we submit what we think is a good rate, and then we end up meeting in the middle somewhere. And we do the same thing for the local companies. However, for the local companies, we do everything at the local level right here. So I have to do all of that. I have to do the presentations and take my iPad when I have it. I don't have it today, but I take my iPad where I have presentations on both hotels, and I get to show them just a small little PowerPoint presentation on, here you go. This is everything this is who we are. And I give them a little bit of knowledge of what we do and what we're about, and the difference between the two brands, what they get, and then of course the great value. And then I sell them on that. And then I give them a proposal if they're interested. And then we have we have some counter offers back and forth. It's usually not a very hard process. And then we usually end up meeting in the middle for a win-win situation. As far as other groups go, a lot of the companies will have group business where they'll have coming in for some trainings or meetings, and they need a block of several rooms at any given at a same time period. And it's my job to negotiate something that's best for both. And again, I get to decide whether the needs will be better. The Hampton will be better for their needs, or the Homewood will be better for their needs. And that's the great thing about being able to have two brands. Because if I have two different price points I can offer, I have two different products I can offer, and makes my job a lot easier. Mm-hmm. So it's just going through different channels, either locally or nationally. And then it's partnering with the different sporting events that we have. So partnering with the Berry Center that's up on Barker Cypress, where they get a lot of tournaments and a lot of teams that come in. what's the other one? And then the House Plantation, which they do a lot of wedding events, and Lindsay Lakes. So it's partnering with those venues that don't have hotels attached to it. So when they do have these functions and they have out-of-town guests, they can definitely refer and say, hey, these two hotels are two of my preferred hotels. We want you to, and they'll give the business there. So we've done an amazing job here at securing exclusivity with one of the larger wedding venues. And so what we get that the other hotels, my competitors, don't get, we get the list of brides once they sign with Lindsay Lakes, instead of them reaching out. Let's make sure. I'm sorry about that. So we get those brides that have signed, and we get their information, all their contact information. So we're one step ahead of the game, and we get to solicit their business in that way. Whereas the other hotels that are my competitors, they have to hope or wait for those brides to reach out to them.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's a great benefit as well.
Yes. That's okay. We'll let that ring. That's what voicemail is for.
Okay. And do you get out of the office more, or are you mostly in the office?
Oh, so that's a great question. And a lot of it, yes, I have to be out of the office for a good part of the days. Typically for me, what works best for me is Mondays and Fridays are what I consider my office days. So on Mondays is when I spend the time looking back over the weekend, see how I'm doing. Plus we get phone calls and emails that come in over the weekend when we're not here. But there are some weekends that I do have to work, depending on what's going on in the hotel. And so it's a chance to capture all of that business that's come in. And then I have to start my day, and I have to confirm all of the appointments that I've set up for the week. And it's just kind of getting everything together. And then Friday, we just kind of wrap everything up. So where we were, where goals are, all that good information. And then Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays is when I concentrate on going out and seeing my clients. And those seem to be the best 3 days that the clients want to meet you. So corporate clients, they don't want to see you on Monday because they're coming in same as I am with a whole bunch of stuff from the weekend that they haven't been able to get to. And plus, whatever they didn't get to finish the prior week, that's what they're going to work on. And Fridays, everybody just wants to go home. So it's, let me hurry up and get everything done so I can go home. And a lot of my clients actually have a long commute to where they work. Unlike, I'm very fortunate where I don't have a big commute. So for me, it's either way.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Yeah.
And do you hire people, or do you just sell? Like, do you have interviews with people for directing?
So, yes. So right now, I'm just by myself. I did have a sales manager, and he's gone on to other things, better things for him and to advance his career. And I used to have a coordinator across the street. However, we've kind of downsized things. So when I get ready to replace his position, I will be interviewing candidates for that position, and I will have say in who comes and joins my sales team.
Nice. And how do you decide, based off of who comes in to interview, who you're exactly going to choose? Aside from experience, so we look at how the candidate came in when they put in their application. Sometimes the applications will come through different channels, usually H Careers or our own website. And if that's the case and we don't get to see them, then the first thing we do is we look at the resume, and we look to see, based on the resume, is this someone that could fit? And of course we prefer to have folks that already have experience in the industry, but that doesn't mean that you're automatically out of the running. There are other things that we look at. And as long as you've been in a sales role or in a customer service role and you've been there, we look at that. Other things that we look at on a resume is the longevity that you've been in any given role. So if we see someone who's had multiple jobs that haven't gone past a few months, we start to question, well, what's the longevity of this particular candidate? So those are the folks that we don't call. But if we see that there's longevity and some sort of loyalty from that particular candidate to any organization or company, those are the ones that we call on. And then once we get there, we actually we'll start the interview process, and usually some basic questions. I want to know what they've learned about this particular company. What homework have they done about our company? Not just the company that owns this hotel, but the actual brand itself. And those are the kinds of things that we're looking at. Is, first of all, have you done your homework to know who we are? Because we're doing our homework to see who you are, because we already look at the resume. And then we ask questions such as, what makes you think you would be an asset for us? What would you bring to the table? So we ask some other questions to see how folks will think on their feet. We ask them to give a typical example of what their everyday day looks like. Tell me from start to finish, what does your typical day look like? We ask questions to get them into problem solving. And then I usually know probably within a minute into the interview whether or not this is going to be a fit. It's just a feeling that we have. So a candidate could come in and answer all the right questions and have the best resume in the world, but then if they meet those criteria, then they come into what I call the it factor, or that X factor. There's that unseen, unspoken thing that I will see in somebody that prompts me to say, this is the person for the job. Because at the whole while we're thinking as employers, we're thinking, can we work with the person we have in front? Where's that chemistry? Typically, if the interview only lasts a few minutes, it's not a good interview for me. If you can get past 30 minutes to an hour, it's a good interview. And then that will typically get you into a second interview with the general manager. And then from there, we'll see how that goes. And then, of course, I always take his opinion into account, because not only does that person have to fit in with me, they're going to have to fit in with the entire team. Mm-hmm. So that's what we look at. Can we develop this person? Did we have chemistry when we were there? And the chemistry is just natural, organic conversation that just comes out as if you've just known each other for years. And that's exactly how we hired Landon. Landon had absolutely no hotel sales experience. He had hotel operations experience, but no sales experience. But when he came to us and he interviewed, the first maybe 20 minutes was the actual interview itself with questions and answers and discovery. The rest was all just conversations between Landon, the general manager, myself, and it was just so natural and organic. When he left, we still had other interviews, and I said, that's the guy. Mm-hmm. And my general manager at the time agreed, and he ended up getting the job. And he actually proved us right, and he did an amazing job. And we became an amazing team. So it was sad to see him go.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's good for him. Yes. It's good for him.
That's good.
Yes.
So whenever there is conflict in the work field, how do you deal with that?
So conflict, depending on the conflict, if it's between somebody in my department and another department, the first thing what I try to do is you have to have a clear head, first of all, and you have to be unbiased, and you also have to hear both sides of the argument. So let's just say it was somebody it was Landon, which we never had any conflict, but which is good. But in the event that if it were him and another member of the department, then what we do is I take the statement from, what I do is when I first hear of it, I have to get with the other department head and say, hey, I've heard that and we have that discussion. And then what we do is we first try to work it out between the two departments with the two individuals in the room. All four of us will, sit down. We listen to one side and then the other side, and then we mediate, and then we resolve it there and then. And then, of course, once we resolve it, we put systems in place, or we put, maybe not systems, but reaffirm any protocols that may have been broken, or clarify the rules or whatever procedures that may not have been followed or the misunderstandings, and then hopefully those are that we set the guidelines so that that doesn't happen again. If it's a misunderstanding or confusing or between myself and another department head, as a department head and as the director of sales, it's my duty to sit down with that individual with a witness present just to make sure that the dialogue is correct. And usually that's the general manager, just to clear the air, just so that we have that. For the most part, depending on how long we've worked together or how well we have worked together, we can usually just hash it out. And at the end of the day, if we can't agree, we can agree to disagree, but we move on from there. And first and foremost, we always have to think about what's in the best interest of the business. And that's the main thing. So if the disagreement comes from something that's not getting us closer to the goals, then what we do is we just kind of have a really quick discussion and just kind of squash it and move forward. Because at the end of the day, we have to make money for our owners, because that's we're in the business too. And if it's not getting us closer to maximizing our revenues or increasing our guest scores or any of that, then we have to put that aside and then find something that'll get us back on course.
That sounds like a really great way to fix stuff.
It sure is.
That's great leadership skills.
It sure is.
Let me think of another question, because I think I asked you most of these already. Okay, so what is your favorite part about your job?
The people.
The people?
The people. The people. Whether it's my team, whether it's my owners, well, my owners are my team, or whether it's the guests or the clients, it's just working with people. And to be able to come to work every day and work with the people that I work with is a blessing. Because I work with some of the most amazing people in the business, and I get to work with some of the most amazing clients too. Some of them are more challenging than others, but those challenges is what keeps me going, because I love the challenges, because it keeps me thinking. It keeps my creative skills alive, and I have to figure out, how do I get this person who's a little bit more what we call high maintenance or a little bit more challenging, has a few more objections than some of my other clients. How do I get them to, be at ease or to communicate? I want them to have a relationship, because at the end of the day, clients do not choose a hotel simply because of the name. They work because of the people. And I always like to say, if you have to have the know, like, and trust factor. They have to know you, they have to like you, they have to trust you. If you can develop that, and that all has to be accomplished within the first 5 to 10 seconds of meeting somebody new, and then you have to maintain that as you go through. And you just have to be consistent with that. Every single day, it's consistency. So if they know they can count on you, that if they send me, and again, I get so many calls. I get voice messages on my direct line. I get voice messages on my mobile. I get emails. I get text messages. And all the while, all of those people have to have answers at some point. So my practice has always been, if I can't answer their question or get them a proposal or the contract, or I just can't get to that, my first thing is, got your message. I'm on a call, I'm in a meeting, I'm off property. Sometimes I have to go out of town on business. I'm out of town. However, this is what I can do, Or if you can wait, fine. If not, then I can usually just transfer it over to my sales manager, and they can do that. But the main thing is to be consistent in everything that you do, and that's why I've been successful in my role, because the guests and the clients and even my team know that they can count on me to come through and meet the deadlines and do what needs to be done for them.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there's usually two.
There's
correct?
usually two of us.
Okay.
Yes. If he hadn't put in his notice, you would have met him.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like it would be a lot just for one person.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I feel like I can tell that you really enjoy doing it, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, then.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. How long?
I've been in the hotel industry for 21 years.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and I've been in management 21, about 19 and a half years. So I was only at the line level about a year and 9 months, really. Actually, a year and 9 months. The rest of the time, I've always been in upper management. So department head. I've been a general manager before of a hotel. So I've done that. That was my goal. And once I proved I could do it, I didn't want to do it anymore. So sales is where it's at for me. So as much as it was a lot, it was fun and it was very challenging. There were some really great things about being a general manager. And however, it's very time consuming. And you are literally on call 24/7. So someone like me that has a family and, you know, my child is everything and my husband's everything, my mom, my dad, and I know family's just everything for me. I needed to make sure that I can leave here at the end of the day when I'm in the sales role. I can leave here at the end of the day and work stays here. So I don't get calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, you know, this group, that group, this client, because nobody calls the salesperson. They're going to talk to the front desk, and usually at that point. So my role is to bring them in, and then it's the operations job to provide the service. Yeah.
Doing great.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. I think we're good though.